Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Context. I am Shannon Williams from Obot AI. I'm joined by my co-host, Darren Shepard. Darren, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here.
Fantastic. We've got some great talks, as always. It has been a busy week for us. I don't know if some of you may have seen, we announced our company funding this week. We actually just closed a $35 million seed round for Obot. So it's been a little crazy and hectic, but super excited. We're also incredibly excited about London next week. I hope lots of you who are attending are going to be joining us there, because we've got an amazing agenda of talks, an amazing set of speakers, and all sorts of exciting content to cover in London. I am flying in on Tuesday. There's a really cool workshop the day before with MCP UI that if anybody's interested in that, I will stick it in the comments, and it's up on Luma if you Google like MCP UI workshop on October 1st in London. But yeah, it's gonna be a great day of talking. We've got some amazing speakers for that. We've also had just a ton of great talks lately on the context. So if you haven't been following along, please take a minute to subscribe on YouTube, follow the channel, and stay up to date on all the cool stuff going on in the MCP universe. We're always looking for speakers. We've got a pretty busy schedule right now. Because there was like 120 submissions for the Dev Summit, a lot of those that weren't accepted asked to join the context. So we're going to have months worth of talks, I think, coming. But if you have something really exciting and really cool that you want to communicate to the community about an MCP you're building, a product you're building, some way that you're, something you're building as a framework to build agents with MCPs, whatever it is, let us know. Scan the code and submit your idea, and we will hopefully see you on here presenting soon. The next couple of weeks are going to be fun. Today we've got some great talks. Obviously, we're off next week. The 2nd is going to be the Dev Summit, so we will not be hosting the context on the 2nd. I'll be hosting the summit instead. And then on the 9th, we have the team from Render, who's going to be talking about how they debug service issues with the Render MCP, which I think is going to be really cool. It's one of the first times we've had like a vendor come and pitch sort of their MCP and how to leverage that MCP. A lot of times we have people building sort of more products for MCP management or MCP consumption, but this will be really interesting. And then we've got an interesting talk on observability, logging, and usage from MCP Cat in 2 weeks. So join us then as well. As always, we're going to try to keep this moving fast. We try to keep our talks to 20 minutes. They tend to go great until we get amazing questions from you in the community. So when you have questions, fire them in, and we will try to hold them till the end, and then we'll have a little chat with our speakers and include them there. So with that, let's get started and turn things over. So today we have 2 awesome talks. The first one is from Raghav Dua, who is joining us from Amsterdam. And Raghav's going to talk about MCP Gateways and the work he's been doing at MCPJungle. It's a very popular open source project. It's been gaining a lot of traction. And then after that, Kelly is going to join us from Pipe 17. Kelly is the COO there, and he's going to talk about the approach they've taken around an MCP strategy at Pipe 17 and what they're building for agentic commerce. So 2 great talks. Kelly's joining us from Wisconsin, right? Did you say Wisconsin, Kelly?
Correct. Northern Wisconsin.
So Amsterdam, Wisconsin. Darren and I are here on the West Coast, where Darren's in Arizona. So should be a great day today. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Raghav. Do you have your screen shared up, and we'll get that put up to the screen?
Hey, Shannon, thanks a lot. Thank you for having me. I will just share my screen.
There we go. I think I see it now. All right. The floor is yours, Raghav.
All right, then we're all set. Yeah, thank you so much, Shannon. Very excited to be here. And hello, everyone. I'm Raghav. Thanks for the introduction, Shannon. I am going to be talking about MCP Gateways today. What exactly they are, what problems they are solving, given that MCP itself is a pretty new technology, right? what is the idea behind Gateways, and what is the kind of work that we are doing with the MCP Jungle. MCP Jungle is it's a fully open source MCP gateway. It's designed for developers and their teams. So we're going to be diving into that. Quick small presentation, then quick small demo. That's the plan for today. So let's jump into it. Yeah, so let's talk about day one. Day one, when you as a developer just started using MCPs because MCPs are cool. And what you do on day one is just, for example, you configure your GitHub MCP server in your Claude, and now suddenly Claude is able to talk to your GitHub or a file system MCP. Just pick one and start using it, and you start seeing the magic that it brings, right? An LLM that can connect to external world and take actions on your behalf by understanding you, or just explore some data, and that's awesome, right? If you just do this, you don't need an MCP gateway, honestly, right? That's not your problem, okay? The problem starts when you start scaling out a little, right? Scaling out is something that both you as a developer individually might do, or as a company, as an org, right? Let's think about what scaling out means, right? Let's say right now you were just using one MCP server like Context 7 or GitHub, and your life is good. But now you want to add some more MCPs because you want your cloud to be even more powerful. Not just cloud, we'll talk about other clients also, but yeah, you want your cloud to have more access, do more stuff for you. So you add 5 more MCP servers. You have GitHub, you have Time, File System, Context 7, DeepWiki, and whatnot. These MCPs in turn expose a bunch of tools, right? Some might expose only 2 or 3 tools. Some might expose like tens of tools. And over time, the number of tools will also increase, right? Now, currently you just had one Claude, right? But you now also want to start connecting to MCPs via your other clients. Like you have your custom AI agents, your workflows, or other things like IDE, Cursor, or VS Code, right? So you see where it starts to multiply, right? Many MCP servers, many tools, many clients, and now it's all a complete, it's about to get chaotic because of all these connections and all these communications, right? That is where MCP gateways really solve a bunch of problems. So what are these problems, right? Number one, when you have so many of MCP servers and tools, these are just spread all over. You don't know at any given time what all stuff might be running, right? This is especially a problem in an org, like in a small team of people. Somebody just deployed their MCP, somebody else is deploying the same MCP. They don't realize that this is already working. So instead of using or reusing, they just deploy their own version of it, right? So hard to keep track of how many MCPs are running if you have 50 or 60 MCPs running, right? There's a big configuration hell, as you can see. As someone who is using, like, let's say 10 MCPs, I think you will understand that adding all these configurations in Claude and then like just looking at it, it's a daunting task, right? And having to change this, especially once you scale out and like you have more than just Claude, you have more AI agents, and you have to manage these configurations across all of these clients. It suddenly blows up, right? So that's the configuration hell. And then of course, when so many of these tools are exposed to your LLM, this will really hurt your LLM in 2 ways. One, it's going to blow up the tokens, right? So it's going to increase your cost. Second, and more important one, in my opinion, is when you expose like 50 or 100 tools to your LLM, when it only needs like 5 to do its job well, you are actually hurting the accuracy of the LLM a lot, right? Because you're just unnecessarily giving it so many options to choose from, and it might not choose the right tool. It might get confused or choose the wrong tool, right? So the lesser, the narrower you can make it, the set of tools you expose to LLM, the better it is, right? You don't want to go in the opposite direction. So, but if you just have multiple MCPs, multiple tools, you're going to run into this problem as well. Similarly, yeah, other things are also nightmare, like different MCPs expose different kinds of authentication mechanisms, OAuth, you've got the bearer token, stuff like that. So you're going to have to configure all your clients to use these different kinds of auth. especially if you're building your own AI agents, right? Claude or popular clients might support OAuth out of the box, but for bearer tokens and stuff, you're gonna have to still configure, and AI agents, you implement your own OAuth client. Yeah, and lastly, given all these communications, right? All your different AI agents, MCP clients talking to all your different MCP servers, you have zero visibility on what's actually going on underneath. You don't know like which tool is being called how many times or which tool is failing a lot. Yeah, and in production scenarios, it can really be a nightmare, right? So no visibility. Yeah, these are the sort of problems you face when you start to scale out, right? And some of these are problems that you will face as a developer individually when you're just using MCPs locally for your own personal work. And some of these are problems that you will face when you are in an organization trying to collaborate on MCPs with your teams. Okay. So what does a gateway do? A gateway simply tries to solve all of these problems. Let's see how. This is a very simplified concept of an MCP gateway, but it nails where it needs to nail, right? There are a bunch of things. Firstly, you might have heard different kinds of terms out there thrown on the internet. A gateway, a MCP proxy, MCP registry, aggregator. Now we also have the official registry from Anthropic. All these terms, yes, all these are different kinds of tools which serve different purposes. But at the core, a gateway, proxy, registry, aggregator, anything, at the core, they do one thing, right? And that one thing is to collect all the MCP servers that are running in your system and then just put them in one place, right? They may not be deploying these MCPs, but they are at the very least tracking these MCP servers. They have the knowledge of all these in one central place. That's the idea of all these different tools, right? And they may expose these MCPs to your clients to use. That's the basic idea of an MCP gateway, right? So as you can see in this graphic, right, a gateway is essentially like two components. It provides an interface, right, for people to just be able to manage MCP servers, to be able to connect to them or like configure their connections. That's what a gateway does. And then the critical component is a gateway itself acts as an MCP server, which exposes all the other MCP servers from its backside, right? And this one MCP is good enough for all your MCP clients to connect to. So essentially, instead of this kind of a configuration help, you just supply one endpoint to your MCP clients to connect to. So whether it's Claude or your AI agents, you just supply one endpoint, the endpoint of the gateway, and through this endpoint, they can access all the other MCP servers that you control, you want to track, and on the backside. That's the idea. Okay. That automatically solves a lot of problems. It solves the configuration hell. And it gives you a lot of benefits, which we are going to talk about. But yeah, essentially, we are centralizing the management of all the MCP servers that are currently just spread around. Okay. So what are the benefits of such an MCP gateway? You can count, right? All the MCP management and tracking becomes super simple because now there is one central place where you can see all your MCP servers. You know exactly what MCPs you're relying on. If something is not here, you're sure that it's not being used. But if something is here, somebody could be using it. Okay. Collaboration. Not only can you personally use these MCPs, you can allow other people in your teams to also use these MCPs, right? That's what a gateway provides. If you sort of deploy this gateway on a server and then everybody could access that server, right? Access control, big one. It's, if you're an individual developer, like just doing stuff for your personal use, you don't really care about access control. It's all yours. But if you're working in a team, you might deeply care about who or what client gets what kind of access to which MCP server. Okay, if I'm exposing GitHub, I want that this and this agent should only be able to read stuff from GitHub. It should never be able to commit anything or write anything in GitHub, right? If you just have an MCP server, you can't really control that. But if you have a gateway could allow you to have that sort of a control, right? And you could apply access control, and then you can give certain authentication to the agent that the agent is only allowed to do certain operations. Okay. Then audits, security, and observability, right? So all the interactions that happen between your clients and your MCP servers, every tool call, all of it is being recorded. Why? You might need it for audit, again, in a team, in an organization scenario, or you might need observability on it. What is going on? Which MCP is working fine? Which one's giving a lot of errors? And if there is an issue, like if something breaks, how do I start troubleshooting, right? First, I need visibility into where exactly is it breaking. So all of that observability layer is also something a gateway can provide out of the box. So there's a lot of stuff that happens here. A gateway essentially centralizes all your MCPs and then provides you all the benefits of centralization, right? And this is where MCPJungle jumps in. So essentially, it's something that we built to, like, we started building to solve our own problems. As I myself am a developer who loves using MCPs. In my IntelliJ IDEs, or even sometimes with Claude. And when I started running into these problems, because I had many different MCPs and I want to use them all, but not run into all these things, that's how MCPJungle came into being, right? At that time, I didn't even know what an MCP gateway was. It just naturally evolved into it. So MCPJungle itself it's a fully open source effort. There's no company backing it. It's just built on the efforts of some really driven engineers. So it's something like that. It's self-hosted. It's an MCP gateway, but there's no SaaS provided or anything. You take it, you run it on your local machine, or you run it on a remote server in your infra. It's up to you, right? So you control everything, every aspect of this gateway, right? Who is it for? MCPJungle exists to solve the problems of two kinds of people. One is if you're a developer who just wants to use MCPs for your personal use cases, right? If you just want to, you can run MCPJungle locally, and you can add all your MCPs over there, and then whether you use Claude or VS Code, or you have your custom AI agents, you can just connect all of them to MCPJungle, and you can manage however you like. Okay, they can access and they can talk to all the MCPs. That's just for your personal use. For your personal use, we recommend you just deploy it locally. And it is also designed for small teams or small organizations who want collaborative features, who want to collaborate with MCPs, but they do not want the overblown enterprise features that like other MCP, like enterprise grade MCP gateways provide, right? I don't mean that nobody needs those, right? They are designed for larger enterprises, but not everyone out there is a big enterprise. Most of the teams are just small teams who need a way to be able to collaborate on MCPs through a tool, right? But they don't need like super duper SOX compliance or stuff like that, right? MCPJungle is also designed for smaller teams like that. For those kind of orgs, you can run it in your own org, in your own infra. I mean, it's self-hosted. It aims to be like a really lightweight tool, right? It doesn't want to be heavyweight. We want to balance features, being able to scale with the complexity, because first and foremost, we want MCPJungle to be like super simple for you to use, right? It shouldn't be complex, but at the same time, it should give you enough features to just collaborate and still have some basic control in place. Yeah, and so yeah, we try to avoid bloat of any kind. It's just a simple to use gateway. That's it. Let's go right into a demo. I want to showcase the very basic stuff about MCPJungle. I'm gonna run it just to show like how you as a developer could run it on your own system and use it for your own private use cases. But of course, MCPJungle also has features for organizations to collaborate on. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a very simple scenario. You have your Claude and you probably configure a bunch of MCP servers in your Claude. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, registering a simple MCP server in MCPJungle. Instead of directly registering my MCP server in Claude, I'm going to just register it once in MCPJungle, and then whether I use it from Claude or any other thing, it doesn't really matter, right? It's up to me. So I am currently already running MCPJungle. Of course, all these instructions are on the README. But I don't think I've shown you this yet. But yeah, everything is on the documentation over here. It's very simple. You just pull a Docker Compose and you start running the server, and you can install the binary for a client. It's the same binary which runs the server and the client, by the way. Docker is just a very convenient way of running. Otherwise, you just fire up MCPJungle start and it will start running the server. Okay, so I have my MCPJungle server running, and as of now, it's the clean slate, right? So the simplest thing you would do is, the first thing you would do is just register an MCP server. Okay, so how about, let me start with the deep wiki. I need, okay, deep wiki URL. Let me get that. Okay, so once I register DeepWiki, because DeepWiki is a streamable HTTP server, I just supply a URL along with a name, and it will go and fetch the tools from it, some basic metadata, and I have a MCP registered in my gateway, right? Yeah. Let me, just for the sake of variety, okay, let me also register one or two more. Yeah, I actually have them. I'm also going to go for context 7, another popular one. Yeah, context 7 also has 2 tools, and it's streamable HTTP. I think I have a, yes. So I also have the time MCP. Time uses stdio, and it makes more sense because I can just run it locally. For an MCP like time, which uses stdio, you can also use a configuration file because it's slightly more complex. Like you got to specify commands and arguments and all that. But once you have a configuration that looks something like this, and okay, cool. So now I have 3 servers. I have a bunch of tools. I have a total of 7 tools in my gateway now. Cool. Yeah, the hard part is done. Now I can go straight to Claude. Let me try to configure something. Yeah. Now notice that the only where is my configuration? Hang on. It didn't open on my oh yeah, okay, never mind, it's here. Yeah, so notice that now the only MCP that I do need to configure in my Claude will be MCPJungle, just the gateway and nothing else, because everything else will be accessible via it, right? So let me go straight to, yeah, and this is what the configuration looks like for connecting Claude to MCPJungle.
Hey, Raghav, I just want to let you know we're kind of running a little low on time, so probably need to get through the last of this in the next minute.
Absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, so by default, it runs on 8080, and you can just go there. But yeah, if you're running it on a different port, then you can just configure that. Everything else remains the same. Now that my MCP's jungle is configured, how about, wait, I think I will need to, I think Claude requires like a restart for the MCP to kick in. Yeah. I think now I have a bunch of tools. Let's pray this works, because statistically, technical demos don't work when you need them to. Okay, no, but it looks like, yeah, I do have access to the tools, because MCPJungle should be connected. Yes. Okay, nice. Then let's look at a very simple tool. What time is it in Milan? Let's see if Claude is able to. Claude wants to use get current time from MCPJungle. Okay, yeah, that's exactly what we were looking for. Now, Claude is capable of accessing all the MCP servers via the single gateway. I can just allow, and it will do. Another quick example. So these are just, I'm just running very basic queries because you get the idea of calling the MCP. Get me the repo structure, readme structure for Facebook/React repository. Yeah, I'm expecting this to call the deepwiki MCP. Yes, it did, right? Again, from MCPJungle. Now, all these calls are actually going via MCPJungle as a gateway. So again, your AI agents could be just connecting to the gateway, call the tools. Everything that's happening in the background in the gateway is being recorded. You have the ability to set the controls, get observability, and do whatever else you want. I think I'm now out of time, so I'm just going to pause the demo right here. But yeah, I think I've already shown the essential functionality of MCPJungle.
Awesome, Raghav. Thanks so much for going through all that. And I know it's a lot to get through in a short amount of time, but it looks like you put a ton of work into the project. I know we kind of saw mostly the aggregation of MCPs in your demo and sort of the ability to set the aggregation and push those there. But you said there's multi-tenancy and a number of other things in there as well. So I can sort of set up for a team, define MCPs, and kind of choose who can access them. I can set some level of policy. Is that stuff that is also in the product?
Yes. Okay. All of it is already there. So we have constantly been talking to our users and then been iterating based on their feedback. So access control, like which agent is capable of control, like accessing which MCP servers, that kind of control is already there. OAuth is still something which is not there, but like it's already work in progress. We are already trying to add the support for it. But yeah, there's and plenty of other stuff. Like you can just create a basket of tools that you want to expose to your agent and then just expose those. So yeah, all that stuff is there.
Awesome. Darren, do you have any questions for Raghav?
Do you support, so have you integrated like the new registry support in those things? Like, yeah.
Yeah. So at the moment, no. And there's an ongoing discussion actually on what is the best way for us to integrate with the registry. Because ideally, what we want to do is we want to pull the information about all the MCPs available in the registry and then make those MCPs available to our users. So they can just run a very simple command and just start running that MCP server. But there's the question of security over there, and that's where we are actually trying to explore more.
Yeah. I mean, because I think that's one of the, the security aspect is such a difficult challenge, but I think that's kind of where like registry becomes interesting. It's not that like, it's for the ability of people to create their own registries that are then validated and because that's the only way we're really seeing kind of security being addressed right now is just pretty much through curation. It's like, okay, these ones are good because we've kind of tested because there's just so many like prompts and there's so many attack vectors that so yeah, it's see with the registry, it's pretty interesting to be able to build your own and not so much like a one gigantic public one unless there's somebody validating those somehow. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's coming soon. The integration with the registry is coming very soon.
Awesome,
Yeah, I
man.
mean, actually, like registry is kind of like on my like to-do list of like trying to understand a little more. It's I don't actually know that level of the specification very well, so just curious. Yeah.
Well, Raghav, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's late in Amsterdam, and we'll keep an eye on the project. Congrats on all the success so far. It looks exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love that it's a CLI. I really like the CLI interface and just yeah.
Simplicity. Yeah, I love.
Yeah,
how
I'm a guy who lives in the terminal, so for me, it's like, yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shannon and Darren. Thank you so much for having me here.
Awesome. Take care. All right. Our next talk is from Kelly. Kelly, you're joining us from Pipe 17, and we're all super excited to hear about that. You want to get your slides up, and I'll put
Sure.
them up on the
Well, thanks for having me speak here. This whole thing, by the way, is giving me flashbacks to GraphQL. I wrote an O'Reilly book on GraphQL back in 21, and hosted GraphQL Conf, and a lot of the same vibes. Same challenges, the same shifting responsibility from the server side to the client side. Kind of interesting how that is coming around again, but in a different context. Can you see my screen here? Okay.
I can. Yeah, the floor is yours, my friend.
Awesome. A little bit of background on me. I'm COO at Pipe 17, spending a couple of years doing operations, but really CPO at heart. Was CPO at Commerce Tools for 8 years. I've written 4 O'Reilly books. What else? Product manager in Oracle's early cloud days, and actually with the stock price at above 300, I wish I'd stayed. To be honest, I sold all of my Oracle stock back in 2016 at $22 a share, which my wife is kind enough to remind me of. Thinking Oracle would never make it, and I guess I was proven wrong on that one, huh? And before that, I was an architect with ATG, which was the leading commerce platform back in the 90s and 2000s. All right. Am I ready to go? All set?
Absolutely. Yeah, the floor is yours.
All right. Sounds good. I'll give you a few slides on who we are, what we do, how we're embracing MCP. I think we're ahead of the curve of most SaaS vendors. And then we'll do a quick demo. So a couple slides on us. We see a lot more selling channels than ever used to be. Originally, you would just buy things on a brand.com. We now see people buying things on TikTok Shop is over 100 billion GMV. Amazon, of course. Walmart is huge. There's so many more places you can buy things. And I'll talk about AI shortly here as well. But again, just a huge number of these selling channels are proliferating. And many of our customers are selling across 5 or even 10 different channels. It's crazy how many there are these days. And at the same time, you have a lot of challenges on the fulfillment side. And Amazon has really, really ruined customer expectations. Everybody wants things same day or next day. My first corporate job was at Foot Locker back in 2004. And at the time, they had one warehouse in Wisconsin that served the entire country. And now they have 8 different warehouses and 2 different 3PLs on top of that. So it's crazy how many more fulfillment partners brands have, largely because of Amazon. Again, Amazon has really set customer expectations, and it's forced everyone to put their goods in many, many more physical warehouses. And we at Pipe 17 have a network at our foundation. We're the first OMS to support network. So we take an order after it's been captured. So when you get that thank you page, we take that order and then we pass it to back office systems of records. So think of ERP systems, data lakes, data warehouses, financial systems, all that messy back office. And then we also connect up to fulfillment channels. And then we can push things back into selling channels as well. So if you place an order on TikTok, for example, we'll take that order, we'll sync it up to your Shopify, we'll sync it up to your Walmart listing and make sure that the inventory is decremented there. Give it back to your ERP so they have a copy of it, and then we'll find the most appropriate WMS or 3PL to fulfill it from. So kind of at a high level, this is what a lot of our customers look like. They've got a whole bunch of integration set up here, but really going after this network approach where you plug in your API key, you get data into the network, it gets normalized, nice and clean approach here. So let's go into commerce a little bit and how it's changing. So again, we started, out by selling on these brand.coms. And as my 14-year-old is keen to remind me, websites are for old people, she says, which doesn't make me feel very good because that's how I've made my living for so many decades now. But I think, she's partially true here. They're on all these social apps, they're on marketplaces. AI is starting to actually capture orders as well. But there's a huge fragmentation beyond just the brand.com, and that's created a lot more complexity. And we're going to see the ChatGPTs and Claudes of the world actually start capturing orders themselves. And it's been widely reported that ChatGPT is getting in-app checkout. So not only can you browse, but you can also buy. And there's going to be an integrated payment wallet as part of that, which is pretty revolutionary. So the AI head needs somewhere to push orders to, and that's where we come into play here. So as of last week, we launched MCP. We're the very first OMS to do so. And we now support Claude and then ChatGPT Pro and Plus accounts as well. And we'll roll out more broad support here shortly. But it's a full first class MCP server, and it actually turned out to not be that hard to do. I'm sure some of our developers would disagree with me, but from a time and how much it's gotten up to my level within Pipe 17, it has not been terrible, not as bad as I thought it would be, and certainly way less traumatic than folks doing GraphQL a few years ago. So we exposed 40 plus tools. And again, we're exposing where the orders go after the order has been captured. So somewhere in some app or some website or some experience, a customer has said, I want to buy this widget for this amount of money. It has to be shipped to this location. Here's my payment information, right? So after that has been captured, that's the relatively easy part. Where it gets difficult is, has the order been sent to my ERP? What does my ERP say? How do we decrement inventory across 10 different selling channels? There's so many considerations with MCP, with order management and what happens after the order has been captured. It gets really complicated quickly. And that's why we were really excited to learn about MCP and all the advantages that it holds. So these are some common use cases. What's the status? How many orders did I receive? You can capture orders directly from MCP as well. Rerun the routing for an order, for example. You can mark a warehouse as being out of commission. Maybe there is a fire and the whole warehouse burned down. You can remove that very quickly and easily via MCP. So a lot of the nuts and bolts of just order management that gets surfaced up to MCP. And we're starting to see customers vibe code their own apps on top of our MCP already. It's only been a week, but we already have 2 customers doing that, which is really cool to see. So one built a ticketing queue system and one built a dashboard for looking at where orders are getting routed to. So I thought that was really cool to see. You can also troubleshoot stuck orders, which is pretty interesting. Orders get stuck for all sorts of reasons. Maybe a connection in the network is down somewhere. There's human in the loop often as well. Sometimes warehouses are physically shut down, so you might send an item to be fulfilled from a specific warehouse and that location is no longer available. There are all sorts of reasons why. And a common ops job is to figure out why orders are stuck. So we make that all really, really easy via our MCP server here. You can also create dashboards. And I thought this was really interesting. Gartner, Forrester, IDC, I know some of you are too cool to do the analyst game, but an boring enterprise world where I live, these analyst reports are life or death for us. They're really, really important. And I've always thought it was really unfair of them to demand that we as an OMS have our own OMS scoped dashboard for reporting. And they require every app, whatever category, whether it's order management or content management or commerce platform. In my world, they require that all of these apps have all of this functionality that's only scoped to that specific platform. And I always thought how ridiculous that was, because what good is a dashboard only for a specific SaaS application, for a specific platform? And my answer is, it's not very good. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do that. Instead, I think this type of functionality should be surfaced at the enterprise level, and you should be able to look across all of your selling channels and all of your fulfillment channels and everything else. Anyway, long story. we're going to submit in our response to IDC. They have a MarketScape coming up. We are just going to say, this is our reporting. And all it is an ad hoc generated dashboard in Claude. And it fulfills all the requirements on their spreadsheet. But it's pretty cool that we didn't have to spend any engineering resources at all building out reporting requirements to satisfy an analyst. Instead, we can just rely on MCP to do the whole thing. So I'm going to switch screens here. Any questions for me so far?
No, it's honestly, it's great, great discussion. Super excited about how, the use case you're putting together. Have you guys looked at, have you looked at all at like bringing the UI into the MCP a bit? Because you're talking about having Claude develop, kind of show that those charts and things. But I'm wondering if that couldn't be a universal thing that didn't really require, like, where you sort of dictated, this is how we want reports to come out, but we'll let any agent, like, regardless of how you're consuming it, bring it. We had the MCP UI guys on a couple months ago, and it was really impressive how much of the UX from your product could be in the MCP, and there's a lot of support for those going forward.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something to explore. I think our developers might get a little angry if I, say thanks for MCP here. Now we have to do MCP UI as well.
Step 2, man.
Catch their breath a little bit.
Step along the journey.
But hey, we're getting there. We're getting there, and we're the very first OMS to support MCP, so we're quite proud of that.
You should be.
So look, we've got it set up here, pretty straightforward, and you can say things like, what pipe 17 tools are available. What's cool about this is, historically, if you look at, a ChatGPT, for example, right? Or Claude, say Claude, since I'm using Claude right now. With Claude, if you're capturing an order here, they have no way of getting that order back to a traditional order management system. And if you look at all those retailers out there, look at the Best Buys of the world, for example, right? They all have pretty old school order management systems. And there's no way of getting an order once it's been captured, which is relatively easy to do. There's no way to do that and pass it back to the OMSs of these retailers and brands. And that's why I'm really excited about MCP, because now we as an OMS can say, hey, here's our MCP server, go nuts, right? You want to pass orders to us, you could do so all day long directly from AI or any other place. So super easy to do. But these are our tools that we support. We can say, what are the current stock orders in pipe 17? And again, what's so interesting about our approach is it's very network centric, right? So you're operating in a network. You're not just having a traditional application that wants to be the center of the universe, right? You don't want that to be sitting on top of a database. That's a very old school approach. And even the newer OMSs these days, it's the same approach they take, right? They want to be the center of the universe. And our approach is anybody can be the system of record. We don't really particularly care, right? We can do it, or we can delegate that to the commerce platform, or some want the ERP to do that, right? Pretty easy to do. But look how, I just asked a simple question, what are the current stuck orders? And it's listing orders, it's listing exceptions, right? And we can say, why is order stuck, right? And it'll do an investigation, and it'll call all these tools and figure this out. And you can see it's calling all sorts of tools behind the scenes here to actually fulfill the request. And this is really revolutionary because, again, historically, you'd have to be pulling up many, many, many different screens to do this. There's no simple way to do this otherwise. And MCP, you give it the goal of finding out what's wrong, and it will just magically do it. It's really impressive technology. This is what we've been waiting for. And you can also argue MCP is going to replace a lot of the app stores within these packaged platforms. Think of the Salesforce ecosystem, right? They've got 5,444 applications in their app store. Now you can just expose this all up through MCP, right? And now MCP becomes the app store basically, because vendors like us can now just publish everything up. So, but look how, it gives key findings, right? There's a temporary hold because it's a temporary hold. That's why the order's stuck right now, because somebody programmed it to hold for 2.5 hours. And sometimes that's done for a good reason, because customers change their mind. I know some customers who, some retailers, for example, who, if an order is placed after 8 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday night, they'll hold the order for an additional 12 hours, because people do things on Friday or Saturday nights, and they make decisions they otherwise shouldn't make, and then the next day they cancel. And it's a lot easier just to hold the order for 12 hours and let folks cancel it, and then they're not out of pocket on any shipping costs or any fulfillment costs or anything of that sort. But yeah, I mean, look, it'll just tell you the most likely cause of what happened and why. Pretty cool stuff. What other questions do you have?
Honestly, I think that's really cool, Kelly. I love your guys' approach here. So you've decided to go in and kind of dive all in as a SaaS vendor to embracing MCP. I have a couple of questions that are more about like the thinking you guys had. So our audience here are people who build a lot of MCPs, or a lot of consumers of MCPs, build agents with MCPs. And one of the things we've run into is there's definitely been some SaaS companies who have looked at MCP as a potential for being disintermediated, being put, losing the customer, right? The customer is no longer talking to them; they're talking to Claude, and so what are they besides just data and logic on the back end? And will it be harder for them to continue to add value, or to continue to add value? So Salesforce is a great example where they've really they're leaning into MCPs to a bit, but they're also kind of saying, hey, build your agents here, they have Agent Force. They're telling people we're the place to build your agents. And so you guys have obviously made a totally different decision. You've said, no, like, we're not an agent AI platform. We're a logistics and order management system. So we want to be where you are. Tell me about that logic, because there must have been somebody internally who said we should build an agent in our product, and that should be the master agent, not let the customers talk through Claude. Or maybe you're going to do both. I mean, I'm curious, just as a product organization, how you decided this was, because you're first in your space to do it. It's clearly not something you were like, oh, everyone's doing it, we better do it. You guys wanted to do this. You jumped out. You made the investment. Why?
I really am disliking the term agent because it has so many different meanings. But look, to continue what you said, there are basically two types of agents. There's an agent within an application, and we have that. It's called Pippin. And I'm going to dramatically oversimplify it, but think of it as a very intelligent Clippy style agent, right? It's very good at working within our platform. And everything you see here that I'm doing, you can do the same thing with Pippin, right? And it'll give you suggestions on how to map data better, how to set up routing rules, right? It's an in-app assistant, and that's good, and that's helpful, and we'll continue to invest in that, and that makes a lot of sense. But agents can also mean at the AI level, and I don't know what you want to call that. It's like the AI platform level. It's at the Claude level or the ChatGPT level. I think that actually, I'm quite positive the future is going to be at that level. I think that's where consumers are spending their time all day long. They're in Claude or ChatGPT, or take your pick, right? Gemini is popular these days. That is going to be the future platform. And in a world where that is the platform, the way you consume data and functionality from vendors like us is via MCP. So it makes perfect sense that we would invest there. And I really don't like when vendors build agents and they scope them only to their platform, right? They're basically building a PaaS for their platform only. And all that does is create lock-in, right? And you only have access to those applications. So if you're a wall-to-wall Salesforce shop and you think AI is terrifying, and you have people who are overly zealous on the security side, then yeah, maybe you want to use Salesforce's PaaS and Salesforce's scoped agents, and that's probably fine. But again, I think there's literally $1 trillion invested in AI across the world, right? Literally. And I think that ecosystem, the ChatGPTs, the Geminis, the Claudes, right? That's where all of this time and money and effort is being spent and invested in. That is going to be the future platform. And we should expose our data and functionality up to that world, not force everyone down into our platform and do the traditional closed wall vendor thing that so many vendors are famous for doing, to the detriment of customers.
I'm curious if
Look
as
at
you
how
guys,
beautiful that is. Isn't that amazing?
yeah, it is really, and this is all generated from Claude, right? This is
Yeah.
Claude's perspective on how to generate a report based on your information. Have you so one of the things that I've heard from other SaaS vendors is that they're kind of in your camp, I would say. Like they want to be existing in the world that is Claude and Gemini, but they want to be able to control their experience. So imagine I'm Target, right? I want the Target MCP, we'll call it, or the target agent to exist. But I want that target agent to still be Target. Like I want to be able to test it. I want to make sure that it represents Target. It speaks like a Target sales person, that it knows who I am and it connects with me and it represents Target. And so I've seen some people that are trying to bring let's just like your Pippin example. They're saying like the MCP should just be Pippin and I should talk to Pippin from ChatGPT, or I should talk to Pippin from, and so there's, it's not that I'm exposing my API as an MCP, but rather I'm exposing my agent as an MCP, and that agent is there. And so I can talk to Claude and tell Claude, hey, check with Pippin and see what it knows. And so it's using MCP still, but that agent is the MCP and that agent is coming back. And it's really just sending text back and forth. It's not necessarily choosing what to call. The choosing of what to call is more done by the target agent or by Pippin to kind of pull the MCP capabilities. And it allows them, I mean, the case they've made is it allows us to test the experience, to choose the LLM that they're interacting with, to sort of, ensure that the experience is really good and that we're not just providing APIs and we can sort of write some of the logic. Have you guys talked about that at all? Is that something that came up in your design that, maybe Pippin is our answer? We just need to push it as an MCP to the universe.
We could, but look, Pippin and our MCP server are both calling the same APIs behind the scenes. So it doesn't make a ton of sense for us to do that, but I could see how some organizations, the targets of the world would want that, a much more controlled, gated experience, much more brand focus. So I get that. I get that use case. And look, I don't particularly care. If people want to experiment, I think that's a great thing for all of us. As an industry, we should be championing this experimentation, and in a couple of years, we'll figure it all out. So I'm happy. I think we can all agree that this is better than not doing anything at all, which is kind of the status quo.
Oh, no question about it. I'm just curious about the debate internally, because I think in a lot of SaaS companies there is a lot of a lot of internal conflict over this question of what's our function.
Yeah,
go ahead, Darren.
I wonder, your thoughts on this of so there's this, because it's like, why do you build your own agent or assistant inside your app? Because it's like you want the customers, it's like they're coming directly to you, and there's a certain fear of oh, if I integrate with ChatGPT, I've suddenly ChatGPT is the gatekeeper to the world, and I'm going to lose my customer or something like that. They're there's putting up some things. So it's like, what is your perspective on should people, companies kind of be embracing of oh no, this is the, ChatGPT is the new internet or something like that. It's fine. We're all just going to play there, or no, try to create your own unique entry point to the world,
Weak vendors with poor competitive differentiation and or those who seek to over monetize their products are the ones who erect barriers.
I agree. That's well said, Paul. I mean, that's exactly what I think that's the right approach, is all of the work you've spent years doing on back end technology and capabilities and stuff, and building relationships with your customers and understanding their needs. That's why they're going to stay your customer. It's not because of your UI, because they want to work with you as fast as possible, get as much value as possible. So congratulations, Kelly.
Yeah. Gatekeeping things is not value.
Yeah, it really isn't. And I think that you're going to see a lot of companies make mistakes here, and it's going to open up opportunities for people who are going to jump in and they're going to steal market share, because you can't, I don't think I think what people want is they want their agents to do work for them. They want their agents to be able to go talk to their email and talk to their Pipe 17 and talk to their Shopify, and they want to do work for them so that they can focus on other things.
And, speaking of I'm trying to get data from our Slack into ChatGPT via MCP, and it won't let me unless I upgrade our Slack plan. And it makes me so angry. That is my data. It's my data. I've typed all that stuff. That's my data and my company's data. I should have access to it wherever I want, however I want.
And that's such a great example because it's exactly what people are trying to do. They're trying to use these data sinks to force you to pay more for a feature that, like, I already got API access. Now you want, I have people who are like, oh, we're going to make our MCP like part of our premium plan. And you only get the MCP if you pay extra for it. I'm like, then you're going to get, like, you're just trying to do the same thing, which is just keep twisting the knife on your customers who are trying to literally drive productivity up. I love your approach. It's refreshing. I think you guys are going to kick ass with it. And I'm so glad you came on because I hope other SaaS companies are hearing this and not making these mistakes.
I mean, I was going to say, like, I've got a bunch of kids, different ages or whatever, and just watching what kids are doing. I mean, it's like, because I'm amazed the amount of shopping that goes through like TikTok and these other channels. But then the fact that like my kids right now are like, I mean, Google's dead to them. You know, it's like they're switching to assistant. That's what they know. They're growing up with, oh yeah, I can just ask this thing because, you know, it does their homework for them. It does everything. You know, it's like this is the new, like, it's like they're growing up with the idea of just talking to the internet, like,
and all knowledgeable. Yeah.
It's like this channel, however it shapes out or whatever. It's like, it seems like this is where people are, you know, where it's going.
This is the new web. I mean, this is probably a discussion better to be had over a beer sometime. But like, I really think the web is going to be an MCP UI-ish thing that is dynamically assembled for each client, depending on each query in runtime. And we're just going to be pulling together all these little fragments in our AI heads or AI browsers.
Ironically, at the exact same time, AI is destroying the web with just garbage content. So it's like we're destroying the internet with generated content, you know, creating this new world that's better with it, you know. So it's it's cool. I think you guys are definitely on the right track. Makes sense.
I can't thank you enough for coming on, Kelly. Raghav, thank you as well for joining us. It was awesome to hear what you're doing, and it was a real nice change. We get lots and lots of talks that are about MCP tools and capabilities. I was really looking forward to this one because I love hearing from organizations that are in other industries fully embracing this and bringing it to their customers. And I think you're the first person who's come on that has said what I've been wanting to hear, which is like, if you don't do this, you are going to lose customers eventually. If you do not understand the future of interface, right? The future of interface, just UX, full stop, you are going to lose customers. So you can try to put up walls and you can all think you're going to be an AI company because you're going to have a chatbot on your app, and you're not, right? You better live in the universe we're all living in. Very, very great presentation. All right. With that, I want to wrap up. It was great having everyone here today. Raghav, thank you so much for joining us and staying on late. And we'll be back in 2 weeks after if anybody hasn't already, you know, get your last minute tickets to London and come join us. It is going to be awesome. We're going to have 30 plus sessions about MCP. It's kind of nuts. So take care, and we will talk to you next 2 weeks from now.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you guys.